Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 3023-5-600. This is a double-acting spring hinge. That's just what this is. And let's dissect the part number. 3023 stands for the fact that it is a double-acting spring hinge, but it's a little less common than the far more common 3029 from Bommer. This is their half surface model. So this is what the hinge looks like when the door is in the closed position. The door would occupy the pocket inside of here and would obviously swing out this way and then back towards center and then in the opposite direction. That's how that works. Okay? .3023 half surface. That's what you have to know. That means that one leaf, and it's always the door. If there's a word mortise, if there's the term half mortise or half surface that's involved, the leaf that is the operable leaf, surface or mortise, is applied inherently to the door. That means that the leaf that attaches to the door is going to be surface mounted. That's part and parcel with it being a 3023. Now the -5, that is certainly a reference or an indication of the overall size, but really what is important to know first is the range of door thickness that a 5-inch hinge will handle. It will handle 1 1/8 to 1 1/2 thick door. The size of the hinge, the size of the spring, all of that conspires to handle doors of that range thickness, 1 1/8 to 1 1/2. If you had 1 3/4 thick door, this is the wrong hinge. You want a 6-inch, coincidentally. If you had a door that was, 1 inch, this is too large. It's thoroughly, again, the wrong hinge. So knowing the thickness of the hinge will allow you to get to the size of hinge that you should initially be looking at. There is a link below this video to a document called Template, and it will give you the important dimensional properties. And really, nowhere on there is the 5-inch reference made. It's really more so in the upper right-hand corner, the calling out of the door thickness range that the 5-inch is intended to work with. Okay, there is, however, that link to the template does give you the important dimensional properties in terms of where the screw holes are in both leaves, as a matter of fact. And I understand that this gets a little confusing to stare at, but imagine that this is the flat frame, the door occupies this space, and the leaf that's surface mounted is facing towards me. Okay? So, the template is handy because you can review all the important dimensional properties. Why? Well, you can take that template and compare it against an existing hinge if you're trying to match an existing hinge. There is, before we get to the installation and technical specs, the 600 in the part number means two things. First of all, it means it's made of steel and that it is in a prime coat finish. This hinge is going to be available in all of the common and even uncommon finishes. We have it listed in the website in the most common, but by all means, if you need a 639 finish, a satin bronze, feel free to reach out to us. We can certainly quote that for you. But it'll be in the site in the 600 prime coat, 601 black japanned, 603 zinc coated. Going up from there, you can do a 632, which is a polished brass, a 633, which is a satin brass, 639 satin bronze, 640 oil rub bronze, 646 satin nickel, 651 polished chrome, 652 satin chrome, and there's others probably that I've just forgotten to mention. Now, the extended description down below here. Half surface, non-template. Non-template refers to these hole locations do not follow any sort of industry standard beyond what is Bommer's standard locations for the screws on this hinge. It is non-handed. It can be installed in either orientation, this way or this way. Does not matter. 1 1/8 to 1 1/2 range door thicknesses. Minimum door height is 6'8". So what they're saying is if you have like a 4-foot tall door, this could very likely be overkill for you, and you might want to look at a different product that Bommer has. So 6'8", 7 foot, 8 foot doors, would probably be appropriate for this. If your door is up to 65 pounds, looking at 2 hinges. If it's beyond that, consider 3 immediately. And if it is in the 93-pound range per their testing, 3 hinges is mandatory. 2'8" wide, 2 hinges. You get bigger than that, get to 3 hinges right away. Kind of more so than the, it's a combination of door width and weight. Okay. Door flange is surface mounted to the face of the door. Jamb flange is surface mounted to the cased opening frame. Do not use on doors with beveled hinge edges. Well, you could, I suppose, on one side, but the doors need to be square edge, and we're going to talk about that more in a moment. Packaged with all wood screws, and that is indeed the case. They will come in a complementary finish, or in this case, they're just chrome because the client has ordered prime coat, which is intended to be painted. Permits the door to open in either direction and automatically return to the closed position. Provides maximum protection for doors subject to normal abuse or truck lifts due to the resiliency of the spring support and shock absorbing reaction of flexible mounting. I think that's a complicated way to say it's a good hinge, and because it's double acting allows it to disperse the energy as it goes through the closing process. Adjustable spring tension. We're going to get to that. No hanging strip is needed. That is a reference to a type of hinge that you are required to apply an additional piece of material to the frame in order to get the hinge attached. The leaf that's going to the jamb here does not require that. You're going to literally mount that to the face of the cased opening frame. Now, let's look at the link called Technical Specifications. Okay, that's like the instructions. Let's look at what we're calling installation instructions. And by the way, those are included with your paperwork. The link to the installation, you really need both documents is the bottom line. The important thing to note is on the installation instruction link are the placement of the hinges in relationship to each other. You're going to want to, when using more than 2 hinges, apply that third hinge right up below the top of the first hinge, the top of the top hinge. You need both of them up at the top because that's where all the work is being done in terms of hanging the door. The weight of the door is going to want to take it out of the opening. You need extra strength to keep it up vertical and tight to the frame. Also, so that when the door goes through its cycle, it doesn't get into an oval sort of elliptical pattern as it goes through its opening. You don't want it to do that in a very exaggerated sort of fashion. So 2 hinges up at the top as shown, 2 to 3 inches between each other. Location for the bottom hinge is also called out at 7 inch. Absolutely. I've seen these installed countless times, and that's the proper way to do these. You put the hinge, the further down from that top hinge that you place it, the less effective it is able to be in terms of helping control the door. That's the bottom line. Now, the link to the technical specifications is the document that's going to be included, and they're really simple and straightforward. Once you've selected the hinge, 30-23, 30-29, 5-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, 3-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch, the finish naturally. You then go to the installation. Once you've got the right hinge and you know it's appropriate for your door width, your door height, and your door weight, and you've ordered the quantity of hinges correct, let's go to installing it. So the hinge typically on these come with no spring tension set, so you don't have to worry about remove spring tension from each barrel, which is step 1. Locate the hinges as shown in figure 1, and that's down below. It's kind of a well, you really only need this one document. It's a redigestion of the stuff we just went through. Get them attached to the cased opening frame, centered in the frame, okay, at the appropriate location. You're going to get the door put into the opening and thoroughly shimmed, centered in the opening, therefore centered in the hinge. Make it so that it can't move, and you're going to mark some holes. So you've got the hinges already applied to the frame, so you're good there. Now get your door put in, bring your surface mount leaf over, mark your holes. What I like to do at that point really is kind of get that leaf out of the way, pre-drill all of my holes, check my margin, make sure my the margin at the bottom, at the sides, at the header is all accurate. It does not have to be moved, and it's all consistent. I have found the hard way that making a very minor adjustment to that is difficult because you've already pre-drilled screw holes. Now, if you're doing a pair of doors, you're going to have to, what they want you to do is install one door with the tension collar, which we're going to define in a moment, pointed towards the top, but then on the other side of the doors, pointed towards the bottom. This way, this leaf, the surface leaf, will always be on the same elevation on both doors, and they say for best alignment, that's exactly how you want it to be. There could be a small amount of variation in the manufacturing of that hinge, just so that if you have them installed on opposite sides, you could get a little out of whack or out of alignment. That's what they're saying. They also are saying that you might need to shim underneath a leaf somewhere to get them perfectly straight, and that caveat is mentioned there. Place the door in the closed position, wedge door from the floor until it's plumb. Once you have it all attached, you're going to want to leave the shim there because immediately when you remove it, the door is going to flop down. You don't want that. You will want to set tension on the hinge so that you can get it to stay up when you pull the shims out. Insert the tension rod into the tension adjustment hole or the tension collar. Rotate in the direction of the arrow as shown in figure 2 or 3, or just simply on the barrel of the hinge, here and here. Maximum 5 holes. So for every order, you'll get at least 1 tension rod. For every hinge, you're going to get 2 tension pins. You will insert the tension rod into the collar, turn it the direction of the arrow clockwise when the tension collar is pointed towards the top, and then into one of the newly revealed holes, insert a tension pin. Do it on that side. You'll also do it on the door side. Same sort of operation. Okay? Once you set some tension on there, maximum 5 holes, carefully release the shims, and then begin to test your operation. If you can tell that you immediately need more tension, make that happen straight away. Increase the tension on the top hinge if the door sags or return action is slow, or if it hits the jamb. You're going to want to be careful of that. There is a calling out of a number of holes of tension. 1 hole of tension is recommended for the bottom hinge, and that's really just to keep everything tight against the frame. The bottom hinge really isn't doing a lot of the work that would require additional spring tension, but you're going to work with the tension up at the top. I like to do, half of the amount of the tension on the bottom hinge. The problem with that being is you need to have more tension on the top hinges because that is what will keep the door or the doors up straight and in its proper sort of arc. Compensating with more tension on the bottom will give you a faster close rate, but will make you think you need less tension on the top. And that's where the door is going to fall out of the opening as it travels. So the guideline is there appropriately. Do your top hinges, set one on the bottom, 1 adjustment space on the bottom hinge, work with your top hinges. Go from there is what you do. If your closing speed, if your door operates well, and you might want to increase the closing speed and you're basically at 5 holes of tension, go to that bottom hinge. If you've got 2 hinges installed and the operation's failing with maximum at the top and a good amount at the bottom, you need another hinge. That's just how that's going to fall together for you. What they're really not helping us with in terms of this hinge and an installation perspective is what to undersize the door to. How much smaller should the door be than the cased opening frame? And that's problematic because it should be, we should be able to go through that. Let's begin to study that now. Okay, so there are no guidelines that they're giving published that will tell you if you have a certain rough opening, or pardon me, finished opening, or if you have a specific net door size, how much greater to make the opening. Using what they do have, their 3029 series, they do publish a table by which to calculate this information. Really, the only difference between well, there could be specification differences in terms of door width, door height, door weight. I haven't reviewed those, but on the 3029 hinge, this value is 0.297 thickness of all the door leaf. The door leaf, the mating plate, and then the jamb leaf. Now when I put the caliper onto, so that's 0.297. When I put the caliper on this, I'm at 0.24, so basically a 1/4 inch. That's leaving us about 50 thousandths, so about a 1/16 of an inch difference. So their formula says that when your leaves are not mortised, you would allow 0.48 inch between the inside frame opening and the door size. So if you had a 36-inch opening, you got to make that door 0.48 inch less, basically a 1/2 of an inch. Or if you had a 36-inch door, you got to make your cased opening frame 36.48 inch, basically 36.5. The fact that we're picking up about a 1/16 of an inch difference on the 3023 compared to the 3029, tells me that you're going to be in the range of 7/16, but closer to, let's see here now. Let's see, sorry, 0.375 plus 0.0625 divided by 2, you're going to be about 41 thousandths of an inch, okay? So just heavy on 3/8 is the idea. Now obviously that's going to change depending on the thickness of the door. If you're at the much thinner range, you probably will be able to make that marginally tighter. The truth of the matter is you're going to need to do a reality check. If it was me, I would be in the range of about 3/8 and I would start there. I know that I'm going to allow a 1/4 inch on the hinge side and then an 1/8 of an inch on the other side. And I'm going to test that depending on my door thickness. I might need to bring it back, or I might need to radius the door style, where you take your router and do a round over on both sides, vertical sides of that door. That's not very common, but you sure see it all the time. So that would be an option as well. So the point of the matter is, start in that range, start at 3/8, test your operation. If you find that you have to trim the door back, go for it. That's all there is to it. Unhang the door, move it back a 1/16 or whatever is required, or do the radius to the door style. If you would like to discuss how to radius the door style, by all means, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to discuss that with you. And then the door height, obviously, that's going to be, an 1/8 of an inch at the top, like standard, and whatever the undercut would be based on your flooring conditions would be appropriate for your application. And outside of that, I think we've covered all the bases on this Bommer 3023 hinge. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page. And then from there, you would be able to pull up the full line Bommer catalog and review all things spring hinge related from Bommer. But not only that, they have a comprehensive offering of commercial hinges. They do a great job of single-acting spring hinges that you'll use in residential applications. A nice offering of lavatory hardware. If you have more than an occasional need for hinges, by all means familiarize yourself with their catalog. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo. Right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer 3023-5-600, double-acting half-surface 5-inch prime coat double-acting spring hinge, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.